Battleline podcast for new listeners checking us out. Because Alexandra Lains definitely has a massive following. You might be checking us out, and we usually do talk to special operations, military community, also authors in that community like Brad Thor, but every now and again we switch it up. And if it's your first time checking us out, I'm Ian Scotto.
I am Chris Peranto. What's up, y'all?
Yeah. And welcome aboard if you are new. If you're not new, you're probably like, why are you introducing yourselves again? But there's always new people checking us out. So with that, if you haven't yet come on board with Ned, man, I have to say, not only has Ned helped me get a great night's sleep, but I know for me specifically, a problematic area, and I think everybody has them, has always been like my neck, my upper back. I've had to do full body, deep tissue massage. I've had to do acupuncture over the years. And actually, these past couple of years using Ned, I really have not. Ned has changed all of that for me. And when I go a week without it, I definitely feel the difference and have to get back on board. So Ned Full Spectrum Hemp has just done wonders for me, I have to say.
It's just a stress reliever more than anything. That's just to say one of the things it does, but it does help. It does help relieve stress, which stress leads to muscle tissue and body aches. And for guys like myself that suffer from ulcerative colitis, can lead to inflammation, and Ned's knocked all that out. So not only has it helped me mentally, but it's also helped me physically. It works. The stuff works. It's tremendous. And that company has tons of integrity, which means a lot. 100% transparency, so you know what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
And just a great company all around and a great product. So yeah, you got to check it out, especially all you guys that suffer from post-traumatic stress. It will help you. I guarantee it will help you.
Yeah. And if you're not checking us out on a video, Chris has the Ned mug going.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
So
shocker.
What your daily ritual is really going to factor into your everyday life. And a ritual is a daily practice that helps you stay grounded. It's an intentional act where you take a few minutes to reconnect with and take care of yourself. Daily routines are mundane and make you feel stuck in a rut. Daily rituals, however, are meaningful and help you become the person you want to be. Transforming your life can be as simple as bringing more attention to the things you do every day. So get present, slow down, and check in with your five senses. Think positive, take a deep breath and say affirmations, and connect with your North Star, smile, and think about what really matters. These products, as Chris was saying, are science-backed. They're nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. CBD is cold extracted from the world's purest USDA-certified organic hemp in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Full transparency with third-party lab reports, who farms their products, their extraction process, all right there on the site. So check it out. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. Become the best version of yourself and get 15% off Ned products with the code Battleline. If you're a new customer, you're going to want to check it out. Go to helloned.com/Battleline or enter Battleline at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/Battleline to get 15% off. Thank you, Ned, for sponsoring the show and offering our listeners a natural remedy for some of life's most common health issues. And while we're talking supplements, I think supplementing in general, it really does go hand in hand, getting the right collagen, protein in your body, all of that stuff. And with that, Bubs has been absolutely awesome for us. Did you just switch the mug?
No.
Oh, I think you're gonna pull out a Bubs mug.
I'm not
that'd be funny.
Brother, I'm not that talented. But no, the Bubs. Guess what's in the Ned cup? It's coffee with Bubs. Always coffee with Bubs. MCT oil and collagen protein. Man, gotta get my health on, brother.
Yeah, and I saw that our friends at Stallion Squad Fitness have become believers in the MCT oil, and they were even saying how and who am I thinking? Mike, right?
Big Mike, yeah. dude, how can you forget Big Mike? Big Mike is Big Mike. He's a big guy, dude, huge guy.
Yes, and he was even saying in his own life now, just starting the product for the first time, he's like, yeah, I'm seeing more energy in my everyday life of using this MCT oil. So yeah, if you need more energy, check out the MCT oil. And also for post-workout recovery, the collagen is great. Also something you're not getting in your diet with collagen. And they help out the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation with every purchase, which helps out families of special operations military veterans, oftentimes fallen special operations military veterans like Bub was, like Glenn Bub Doherty. So check them out. BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline for 20% off That's the best deal you're going to get. You could find their stuff other places, but with us, you're getting a great deal because of that partnership. So bubsnaturals.com, promo code Battleline.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
Battleline podcast. And actually, before we get into anything of substance, I have to, I don't know what you're doing there.
I'm dancing. It's Battleline. I can imagine our own theme music or the Jimmy Allen theme song.
It's the best, man.
Because
we do add all that in post. I have to ask you, we were texting, and I know that on Tuesday the game was not nationally televised.
Shut your punk ass. Shut up.
See yesterday's Yankee game?
I did. I haven't. I'm obviously, because you're saying this like you are, the Mets probably won, right? Is that what you're trying to?
Yeah, 2-0.
Now I'll start. I'm one of those guys that really, and it depends on the political climate. If the MLB wants to get it, if they do, then I don't watch it at all. But if the MLB stays it and it's just baseball, I'll get into it. If the Yankees make when they start making the series, that's when I start getting, because it's too many games in the season. It's just, I mean, they could lose 2, and then the next go around the Mets could lose. But no, I didn't see it, but I'm assuming they lost, and that's all right. It's midseason. They're all right. I mean, they can lose a couple of the Mets now, just as long as they don't lose to them. If they play them in the series down the line, then that's a bad thing.
Yeah, Yankees, Mets, and Houston are having an unbelievable season. It is like a magical season for these 3 teams. So I've been following, actually more so than usual. And then I've also been following the Derek Jeter, the captain series on ESPN, which has been great. There's going to be 2 new episodes of that tonight. And you know what I was watching after the game, man? We got to get Alex Jones back on the podcast because he has been so active. I was just watching his interview that he did with Michael Malice on the You're Welcome podcast. And it's like, Alex is sounding a lot more like mild these days. And he actually, I feel like, has calmed down a little bit, and he even commented on the show. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to be like less angry Texan and more philosopher. And he even said, and he looks good. He's like, I've been working out. I've been like less crazy about this stuff. And it's crazy to see. It's good to see because he's under attack more than ever. But he's got the documentary that comes out, I believe, tomorrow, Alex's War. And it looks like it's going to be really good. And then Alex also has the book coming out. And I believe, look, for all the shit that Alex gets, some of it deserved. He really doesn't get enough credit for some of the like amazing work he's done, in terms of like, he was the first person to get access and sneak into the Bohemian Grove and get video footage, and like, people forget about that stuff. And it seems like this documentary is not going to be a fluff piece. He's like, I didn't want to do a fluff piece. Yeah. He's like, it's got plenty of footage I'm embarrassed of, stuff that I wish I didn't say. He's like, but I think it's going to give a well-rounded view of who I am, including like the January 6th stuff, including the Sandy Hook stuff, but then including some of the like stuff that's undeniably amazing that he did, like the Bohemian Grove work. So I'm actually excited for that, and I'll definitely read the book too. I mean, that's a book I got to read.
I've said it. I was on the Show Up Dad podcast, Good Dad podcast. I know I'm messing it, but I've said this, and I'm still a big proponent of it, that humility and guilt and even failings, not failure, but failings, can teach a lot about yourself, and it can actually make you be, well, that's what gets you successful, to be honest with you, if you're able to pick yourself up. I think we go through, and I hope it does point out this as on his documentary. I hope it does show a lot of humiliating things on there, because honestly, if that is on there, I think he's learned from it. And it's not just, as all, whether it's Glenn Beck, who you and I both agree with it. I don't care much for the guy that thinks he's a messiah. Anybody that thinks they're a false idol is a POS.
I think Alex is so much more like, as much crap as he gets, I think Alex is such a more authentic guy. I really do.
But it is, and that's why I hope it shows, because humility and failings, which we got away from, especially when we went through the everybody gets a trophy time period, which I think we're getting away from now again. I think we're seeing that was a mistake to do that to kids. But humility does teach a lot, just as much as getting accolades. And I'm an example of that as well. I think I learned and got stronger by being humiliated. When you get kicked out of the military and you come home, guys, and it's a small town, that's humiliating. Believe me, it is. When you walk back in, and everybody's whispering over their shoulder about you. But it taught me how to get stronger. So I'm hoping that that's what this does. So that's good to hear that he put that in there, because I think that can help other people learn, because you're putting your humiliation on blast. It's on public. And I think people that get out there that may have gone through things that are humiliating can say, you know what, I can talk about this and I can learn from it, and I can get stronger from it, which is really how you get stronger, in my opinion. Not the accolades, not the attaboys. It's the failings and the knockdowns, and then also the humiliation, and then some of the guilt that comes with it. And that's what, to me, actually will get a person stronger. They can also go the other way, but that depends on the person itself. So looking forward to it, man. It sounds like, I hope we can get him on again. He's a friend. Alex.
Yeah. Do you have, because I know I've emailed his publicist. Do you have his cell?
I'll look. Let me see what I got in there.
We gotta get him. But I should say the documentary, it's not, he didn't direct it, he didn't produce it, so it's another party. But I could tell I've heard him talk about this, because I do follow what he's up to. I do always watch his interviews. He's always entertaining. I'm always going to learn something. And he is. But he said there's going to be probably a good 3 or 4 documentaries that are going to be airing on corporate news that are just hit pieces on me. He's flat out. He's I wasn't going to combat that and just do something to say I'm the greatest. He's I was going to do something that's objective. And there's been, I don't know if you ever saw Get Me Roger Stone. That was on Netflix, but that was as fair as it gets. It showed, I know Roger Stone. It showed the real Roger Stone. People who think Roger Stone all of a sudden are oh, he's a Christian man. No. Roger Stone is it did show the sliminess of Roger Stone and the sliminess of Republican politics. But at the same time, I think Roger Stone feels he's fighting for a greater good in some causes. He feels sometimes you have to get in the mud on some things. So I think this is going to, and Roger was go see the documentary. So I think it's going to be in that same vein of something where it's just, you're going to watch it and you're going to get a clear view of who this person is. So I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm definitely going to read the book. And it's been well over 2 years since we've had Alex on, and a lot of stuff he spoke about, if you guys listen back to that interview, because I think a lot of you haven't, because it was very early on in the show, he was talking about where he got completely deplatformed on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And he said, yeah, I'm the most hated man, but he's make no mistake, this is kind of a beta test for, they're going to kick other people off, wait and see. And sure enough, it's happened. And he said on Michael Malice, he's the tides have really turned on that in terms of me being hated, because he goes, I could walk through Portland now and I could walk through LA, and he's I'm getting high fives and people being I love you. And he's it wasn't like that 2 years ago. So things have actually changed a lot for him.
It's just, you go with the flow. Life's a roller coaster, man. And with him, when you're not getting out there and you're not spreading hate all the time, which a lot, I think he would agree with it. Back in the day, 75% of his stuff was hate, or it was defending himself, which turns to hate because it turns to anger. You get away from that, you draw more people to you. It's shocking how that works, huh? How being pleasant and actually being positive draws people to you. But the social media doesn't want that to happen. They because on the social media side of the house, it's completely opposite. So yeah, you're going to deplatform a guy. I'm glad he changed his ways, or it sounds like he has. Will he ever get the platform back that he had before? Maybe, but I doubt it, because he's going in that good direction, which social media is not a good direction at all, even though we use it. But it's good to see that at least he maybe has, I don't know yet. The decks, the judgment is still out there, but it sounds like he's turned turn the page and he's going to go that opposite direction, which honestly, that's good for everybody, especially those that are following him. And if he's getting good now he's getting some accolades or some high fives. Well, that's a good thing in life, man. I'm not saying accolades aren't good. Everybody needs that attaboy. I just say sometimes humiliation is just as good a teacher as accolades, if not better. But I'm glad to see that he's getting those high fives, and I'll high five him if he comes on the show, dude. Another high five.
No, we definitely have him back. But I'm telling you guys, watch the Michael Malice interview, because the other thing that he says is really interesting. And he admits, he's like, look, this makes me look bad, but he's like, I'm going to be honest, I was drunk many times during appearances. He's like, I was drinking really heavily. And he's like, the stuff that you saw of me going viral and saying crazy shit, he's like, yeah, I was drunk a lot of that time. And I needed to like change that. And he said I was going, just how hard he was going. The fact he's like, sure, I would do a 4-hour show and then I would do Joe Rogan. And he's like, the only way I'm going to get through doing another 4 hours is if I just like get some liquor in me. And he's like, next thing you know, I'm drunk. I'm saying things I probably shouldn't be saying. So yeah, it's a good interview. Check it out. But the other thing I wanted to make sure we get into, of course, this week has been like the real launch of E3 Firearms. It's something we've been pushing out heavily, and you've actually gotten a chance to interact with some of these new members.
You know, the platform that we have there, and it is a membership-based platform, but just even with the discounts and stuff on books and things that I get on my own gear, it pays for the membership. I couldn't believe it was as cheap as we were, to be honest with you. But once I got on it, the platform is tremendous, man. And I'm pushing the tech people on the E3 side to have a Facebook Live type ability on the platform. But once we get that thing is just as competitive with Facebook, and it's in honestly a friendly confines for the 2A community, which is not friendly on the Facebook or any other social media pages.
I've certainly learned that.
Oh yeah,
and just to jump in here, I don't know if you even know this or if this happens to you. I get notifications on our Instagram for posts I've put up like 2 years ago for Fort Scott Munitions with a gun, and they're like, we cannot sell firearms on Instagram. Like, not selling fucking firearms, right, guys?
They're dirt. Instagram and Facebook, you guys are dirt. And Instagram more than Facebook. Facebook actually has done some okay things for me in the recently.
I mean, it's all owned by the same.
But it's all owned by the same. So, but the website itself with all the classes we have on there, and then just the interaction. I don't interact like that on any platform aside from that E3 platform. So I'm in there. It's been quite fun, actually. People actually getting direct questions to me about guns or about tactics or even just life, and I'm responding to them right there. And that doesn't happen on any other platform, and it won't happen on any other platform aside from the E3 platform. So I think a few of the members are in shock because they're actually having conversations, and I've conversations every day if you want to. But it's teaching as well. And I do believe there's people coming on there that are looking to teach and learn more and get taught more, and they're feeling empowered, because there's a few on there that I can tell just from they're talking to me, one using a cane or having some physical disabilities that may preclude them from going to a range, that they're not having to worry about that on the platform. So we can talk openly and I can give them information, and they can say, you know what, this is what I suffer from. Can you have ideas about how I can train with a cane, or can I train with a bum hip, or, because we get older. Just the interaction itself, I'll be honest, to me, it's been fun. I've never interacted that much on a social media website or platform, but I am on this. And then the training values of it, because of all the classes that myself and Adam have on there. And then I'll do hip pocket training, where I'll do a video and I'll post it right. We call that just going out and doing a 5-minute blip on how to hold a handgun, or how to stand, or zeroing an optic. Those things are on there. And again, they're not going to be on anywhere else but E3. And then just the discounts in itself. I want to get the business side. I want to stay on more of the personal side, but of course the business side, all our partners offer discounts that you can't get anywhere else as well. I'm trying to bring other people on, which we will, but that outside the business, the personal side, it's been fun. I'll be honest. It's been quite fun. And then we'll have classes, E3 classes, and we're having, a convention next year in Amarillo with that. Hopefully you'll be there. So maybe we can do some podcasting there.
I'll definitely come out. I haven't been in Texas in years, dude.
Amarillo's still a pretty cool place. So we'll have that Amarillo, and then of course Battleline classes that'll be popping up that I'll be putting on, which E3 will help along with But the thing with the Battleline classes that are be awesome for E3 members is, again, just the discounts. I won't get, you're going to get hell of discounts to come to Battleline classes if you're an E3 member. It's my way of saying thanks, man. It's like, dude, thanks for joining the membership. And guess what? Here's a discount for you that's going to pay for your membership for one class, but you can go to any class. So it's a great, honestly, I think we got something here for the platform, for a 2A community platform, that if E3 and the entire association wants to put money behind it, which they have already, which is awesome. I'm glad they have. I think we could have a 2A Facebook type platform that will, of course, be friendly to, well, it will be friendly to everybody, but especially friendly to the gun community, which is not, you can't find anywhere else on any other platform, because you just can't. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, it's been great, dude. And I hope more people join, and they will. And as we go, guys, come on in. You'll see the difference. You'll see what I'm talking about once you jump on there, and it pays for itself within a month. I mean, it's not that much at all. $19, I think, for a general, and $30 for a premium, something like that. I could get them wrong. Don't quote me on those guys. Don't, but it's not that much at all. And it's well worth it. In my opinion, it's well worth it. And it's been fun for me. I've first time I've had fun on a social media website at all. So besides the Battleline podcast, when we do that, that's the different.
Oh yeah, when we do the lives, we got to do one too. But yeah, E3 Firearms Association.com. Sign up, guys. E3 Firearms Association.com. We got to get to Alexandra Lains, but while we're talking firearms, we of course got to talk night vision. And a lot of people have been like really stoked about what Photonis is doing when they hear about it. And yeah, they're coming on board because they know that real operators co-sign what they're doing. So now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper binocular night vision system by Photonis Defense, which is the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper binocular to help them master of darkness. Master of darkness is their trademark. The new Viper binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. So visit photonisdefense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your local night vision dealer. And I've actually seen them on FSM.com. You can check them out and get a discount on there. And while we're talking FSM, Fort Scott Munitions, Fort Scott is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that it received the same results with every pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states and now on FSM.com. They're caught up on that, so check them out, guys. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off. And if you've been listening to the show, they are our longest running sponsor. They're behind everything that we do. So you got to support them. They're and that deal is only available to Battleline listeners. So use the Battleline promo code, and that 15% is great, because if you're buying ammo in bulk, if you're buying some of the more expensive items on the site, that's really going to come in handy. So
huge. And they're also we're doing a course. FSM and Photonis Defense will be doing a night vision course after November 11th. So the week after November 11th, I'll have it up. E3 members and Battleline alumni get first crack at it, but there you go. We get to work with Photonis and FSM and doing a night vision course come November, and that's going to be a lot of fun if it's nice weather in November in Kansas.
Yeah, that's huge. So Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. FSM.com, promo code Battleline. By the way, like I said, we're glad to finally be doing this. I always feel like people think we're blowing them off, but it's like, it's just hard to make it all work because we only do one show a week. And I'm like, I had Alex on the list, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this.
We'll get there eventually. It's just I'm too lazy to do more than one show a week. I don't want to do more than one show. That's it. So, but it's good you're on, and I appreciate you coming on. How far along are you right now?
Pregnant. I'm 15 weeks today.
Oh, okay.
15 weeks yesterday. So
holy crap!
I'm in the second trimester now.
So are you good to do it now? Or are you gonna be fine?
Yeah. No, I see a couple weeks ago, even last week was kind of iffy. I think I'm finally starting to get out of like the really bad sickness and stuff. But I think the baby had like one last send off. It was like last week at like 14 weeks in a day. I woke up after not being sick like for a whole week, and I got sick 3 times. One of the times was in the car on the way to the doctor's office. And luckily, John, my husband, was home. He had staff duty the night before, so he was off. So he took me to the appointment, and thank God, because if not, I would have like thrown up all over myself.
That would have been, yes, that's awesome.
Terrible. And it was, I had just had Dunkin' Donuts hash browns.
Oh.
And in the beginning of my pregnancy, they were like my saving grace. Like when I was really nauseous, I would eat them and I'd be fine. And no, not anymore.
Not gonna work anymore. All right, did we get all that? Make sure that's part of the podcast. We gotta have that on the podcast.
We're gonna keep all this in here because I mean I gotta give the formal introduction, but we gotta keep all that in
there.
You
have a barf bag next year because that's okay for our viewers. You know, our guys are usually with the viewers we have are mainly veterans and special ops guys. So I think that would probably bring us more views, tens and tens of views. I love that commercial. Tens and tens of views if you're puking in a bag while we're doing the podcast. So please feel
noted.
free.
Noted. Right. I was feeling a little nauseous this morning, so you never know.
All right.
Yeah. So I will give Alex the introduction though. So Alexandra Lains, political commentator, musician, military spouse. And yeah, the funny thing is, like, had I have known Alex was going to be pregnant, I'd say, all right, we'll probably put this off for another time. But I ended up booking this probably a month before you made the announcement. And I am glad to see, like, you know, you seem perfectly fine. So I'm glad that you're able to be doing this. You know, it's actually my first question is, Alex has been checking out the show since like very early on, one of our biggest supporters in terms of like someone who is honestly a huge following. Alex has more followers than you.
There's nothing wrong. There's a lot of people.
But I know Alex has a huge following, like completely organic in terms of like just people finding her and really making her way as a political commentator. So what was interesting to me in terms of, and I know Chris is going to laugh at this one, but like the age difference between the three of us, I'm just curious because you got into the podcast because of Chris. And I'm curious, like, how did you even come about learning the story of Benghazi? What interested you in the story of Benghazi? Because it's like, for me, I got to meet Glenn Doherty, albeit like very briefly, was working in political radio. And then, you know, hearing this doesn't make sense, and then getting to meet Chris and actually hearing the full story. I would assume when Benghazi happened 10 years ago, the last thing on your mind was probably politics and what was going on in Libya. I would assume.
Okay, so you're just everybody. I'm 30 years old, guys. That's what he's trying to say. You fucker! I swear, bitch. No, that's it. But honestly, that was one of my questions too. Is it because what I don't want to. I'm not trying to. My words. I can't talk today. I need more coffee. But be disrespectful. But yeah, how old were you? I want to know how old were you when that happened in 9/11/2012.
Yeah, well, I'm 27. I just turned 27 a couple days ago, actually.
So you were just graduating high school then. You're that age, 17. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was just graduating high school, and I did know about it, but at the time I wasn't. You know, you're in high school, and like, and times were. Why am I saying it like that? Times were even different, like 10 years ago in high school, where like I don't remember anyone that I went to high school with being so into politics the way teenagers are today. So it's like I was just going to high school and, you know, whatever. And I was familiar with like the war and military and stuff because I had a brother that was in the Marines from 2007 to 2012. So I was like somewhat familiar with like that environment, but like I wasn't sitting at home like watching the news. I was like watching, I don't know, just like regular television. So it's like I wasn't really paying attention too much. And then not really, but at the end of like, so in 2012, I was starting to pay more attention because that was when, you know, there was like the election and stuff. So I was starting to speak my mind a little bit about like on my personal Facebook page, but nobody cares about that. I ruffled some high school feathers, but that's about it. And then when I started getting into politics, not even really getting, but paying more attention was the election in 2016. And the movie had come out like right before the election.
Right.
And I remember watching the movie for the first time and really getting familiar with what happened in Benghazi from watching the movie. And I watched it with my parents, and it was, I mean, we own, my husband and I, we own the movie, and I'm not even ashamed to admit this, but we watch it like so many times. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. And my husband is pretty jealous that I'm on this podcast with you right now. So, but it's my, you know, I can brag, you know, in the house, but he follows me.
Yeah, you tell him. I follow your husband too. Doesn't he have an account?
You don't follow him anymore because he deleted his last account. So he just made a new one recently. So I was like,
tell him I'll send it. What is it? I'll follow him. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Okay. But no, so we watched the movie right before the 2016 election. And that was, I even told my dad, I even remember telling my dad, that was probably the best marketing you could ever have for an election. Like, because let me tell you, I was never a supporter of Hillary, but I mean, it really pissed me off after even watching the movie too. And like really just the whole situation just really pissed me off even more because I was a little bit older, and so I understood a bit more. And yeah, so that's kind of really how I found the story, was from the movie coming out right before the election. And the 2016 election was the first election I ever voted in. It was the first one I was old enough to vote in. So like I was really paying attention to everything that was coming out. So like when that movie came out, I watched it with my parents, and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to cause quite the storm again. So so that was kind of how I really got introduced to what happened, the situation and everything. And then I've just been following along.
No, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, it's okay. And then I was just saying, then I've just been following along ever since, and then found your Instagram and all that stuff. So
why? Well, I shit canned the Instagram, my old account. That was a new one when I first jumped back on that thing. Yeah, I let go of it, but and that was one thing where they did the movie and they did do a good job. And honestly, I really do feel, and I'm being biased, of course, or people are going to think I'm being biased, but I got buddies, Dale Sizemore and Danny McKnight are friends from Black Hawk Down. Matt Eversman and I speak with the same, those guys, I know Marcus, and so I have personal relationships with those guys' movies. But I do really feel that they did the best there are. I do. I agree with you. Now, just because they got the humor and the family turmoil that we were going through, that everybody goes through. But also on that, we didn't really put anything political in it. And that's what we wanted to do. But of course, it still got pushed one way or the other. And we did based off the news media that we did at the time. But I was hoping it would show and stay as apolitical as possible for as long as possible. But it didn't, but I do feel like it's coming back that way again. I do think there's people that still like yourself that watch it, and that the movie's coming back to where just it's heroism and leadership. Yeah, Obama and Hillary screwed up. They didn't screw up. They were criminally screwed up. We're talking in my opinion, manslaughter. But there were also some Republicans, Boehner and McCain, that were involved with that too, which is why I think didn't go as far as I thought it could for how good the movie was. I really didn't. But I've had those conversations. We can talk about my meeting with Speaker Boehner and sneaking in a window. The House of Cards, I've been through all that. I believe me. And maybe offline one of these days when we can talk about that, where we're not talking on a public setting about it. Not that it ever happened. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I'm just saying maybe it did. But it really did show to me, open up the curtain of that House of Cards, and that really a politician is only as good as the person behind it, not the party, but the person. And I have to say that it really did show me behind the Wizard of Oz power curtain, and show me that it was just a person moving the big Wizard of Oz around, and not an actual Messiah back there. So, but I'm glad I'm glad the movie had that effect on you, because it really did help bring, I think, a younger generation. And I am older, guys. I admit it. I'm a lot older than Alex. It did bring the younger generation into politics, or at least to start being more vocal. And that was great, because right now, and correct me and tell me what you think about this. I was going to ask you, your generation, my generation didn't give two shits about politics. No, we didn't care. It was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, that's what Jeff Spicoli, hey, going out there playing football, Friday Night Lights, all that stuff.
Does Alex even get that reference?
Yeah, I know. If you don't, she'll use the interweb and Google that stuff.
You will never know.
But do you think now? I don't even see if high schoolers or that teenage groups now, if it's even politics more than they're involved with activism, which is terrible. Activism's different. Do you feel that it's gone from politics to the extreme of activism, and not just supporting a party, but I mean, we got people thinking they're bunnies, and not even genders anymore. There's I mean, literally in Kansas, down the road in a small town, there's girls going to school that she identifies as a cat. I'm not joking you. It was in the local paper here, and the counselors are allowing that to happen. But has it gone to that extreme where it's not even politics anymore? Now it's activism, and even to farther extremes. I don't even know what to call the cat identification. I don't even know just your opinion, because my opinion, the old grouchy guy, I'm the old guy, and like, this is all horseshit. That's me, because I'm the grouchy guy sitting on. But what is your generation see it, and how do you combat that without getting too angry because you're pregnant? Don't get angry. I just want to but what do you guys do? What do you do? What do you say to all
that? Sorry, I'm joking.
On the hash browns. There comes the hash browns. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You're good. Yeah. So I mean, when I was in high school, we would make fun of like furries. Like, we would make fun of people that were furries. If you did that today.
Time out. First, folks, is that what it's called? Is a furry?
Yes, it's similar. Yeah. So but we would make fun of people that would like dress up in weird costumes and think that there's something else, and that would bark in the school hallways and all that stuff. And if you did that today, if you made fun of those people today, you'd like get kicked out of school. So things have definitely changed. It's definitely, I feel like when I started like getting into politics, it was more of like a political thing. And now it definitely is more of like an activism, where it's like everyone's woke, everyone's going to protest. If you're not talking about certain situations, you're going to get canceled. So it's very dangerous, because I don't even think half of these kids even know what they're protesting or what they're angry about, or what type of activism they're actually doing. I think it's just like they see other people doing it, so they're going to join in, because if they don't, then they feel like they might get called out if they're not joining in with if they're not jumping on the bandwagon. So I definitely think it's more of an activism thing. And it also doesn't help that social media is like huge now compared to what it was when I was in high school, because now all you see on TikTok and Instagram and everything is 18-year-olds talking about politics. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, that's all you saw on TikTok was 18-year-olds talking about it. So it's like everyone is always going to be influenced in some way. That's why I feel like social media can be a good thing and a bad thing, because especially with TikTok, for example, you have more of the younger generation, you have more of the Gen Zers like take over everything now, but like they're especially taking over TikTok. So it's like now they're influencing so much about like what's going on in politics, but it's like they're not even talking about like their local government and their local politicians, their state politicians. They're just talking about, you know, the president and the former president and, you know, the Supreme Court justices and like the big positions. But like if they actually really cared about politics and what was going on, they would focus on every form of politics and every form of government and not just Washington, D.C. So it's like it's definitely changed a lot. I kind of miss it because like I said earlier, that when I was in high school, I don't think anybody was focused on politics or elections as much as they are now. And it's like kind of crazy.
No, it is. It definitely is. And to see that coming on, I don't, as a 51-year-old adolescent, I still don't know how to deal with it. And even if I have to, I really don't. I'd be honest with you. But my thing, looking back and after serving for a while, and I do want to get your background here in a second, but do kids there's a certain amount of wisdom which is through life experiences that I believe somebody has to have to really know what politics are, what's best for just themselves at that age. And I know as in high school I didn't have that wisdom. That's probably why I didn't get involved with politics, period. Do you believe, and again, what's your feeling on just life experiences before you can really outwardly speak about anything? I think you have to live a little bit, and not just in your mom's basement. I mean, you actually have to get out and live. Do you agree with that? Because I don't see that that's happening much anymore, aside from living on this. And that's not living. That's seeing how other people are living, but that's not your living, your experiences. Before you even should be able to talk about politics. And in that aspect, do you think there should be an age? You have to be a certain age before you can vote. You have to be 21 or 25 instead of, what's your opinion on that? My old self? Yeah, I would say that I'm still the old adage, you got to serve 2 years in the military. And I know Ian would be like, no way, dude. I think me and I would probably disagree on that, but you at least
you take away my right to vote, I guess.
But I really feel that there's got to be some life experiences before you have that ability to get out there and make those kind of decisions for a country. But we've got a little bit of significant age gap in there. So what do you think? Which I wanted to ask you that, and I just haven't had the chance to till now. So what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think experience is important because, I mean, just for example, a lot of the younger generation that is like praising this administration, for things that they're doing. They're the same people which they completely ignore, like the inflation and everything that is going on. A lot of Americans that are genuinely suffering right now, and genuinely worried that they're going to fall into a financial crisis, which is scary. No one wants to have to deal with that. My dad is a very hard worker. He has his own construction business and he's been pretty well off. He's gone through financial, instability before, and he's a little nervous right now. I think a lot of people are. So the same people that are like praising this administration or kind of ignoring things that are going wrong are the same type of kids that still live with their parents. Their gas is paid by their parents. They don't have a job. So I definitely think experience is important. You need to go out and actually get a job, and not just a job at McDonald's. I mean, it does build experience, but these are also the same kids that want $15 plus an hour for a minimum wage job doing minimum wage skills. So it's like experience is definitely important. I know for me, when I got into politics, and especially, around the 2016 election and then everything that's been going on, I had somewhat of a military background in the sense that I've had family members that are in the military, a brother, and then my husband is in the military. So it's like I saw firsthand back then and see firsthand now how politics and how government decisions has an effect on our family and whatnot. So for me, that's also an experience in itself too. Obviously, not everyone can control that. I didn't control who I fell in love with. Personally, I probably wouldn't have chosen a military experience.
Well, he's not a Marine, so you're okay. You're okay, right?
That's true, but my brother was.
Well, that's why you went. That's why you had that wisdom to not fall in love with the Marine. You knew it right there 'cause
Literally.
you had that experience. There's our case for wisdom and experience right there. Perfect.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, no, I mean, experience is definitely something. And of course it's, you know, everyone's life is different and everyone, you know, their journey is different. But I mean, if you're someone that, and, you know, not to bring up the basement thing, but if you are someone that lives in your mom's basement and plays video games 24/7, doesn't go outside, doesn't have a job, doesn't converse with, you know, society, then
Right, sure.
yeah, I don't really think you should have a say in what happens in this country, because you don't know anything. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how inflation is skyrocketing. You don't know that we just fell into a recession, even though the government wants to redefine it. So it's like just crazy.
No,
But,
it is. It is. No, hey, I'm a father of 3, and my kids are all still at home because they're all high school or below, and my IRA is taking a hit, and it pisses me. Yeah, it worries me. It definitely worries, and I don't think you can really feel that worry until you have that family and you have your retirement. And I'm at an age where I can start looking actually and retiring, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm losing my ass right. But being wise, I've been through that before, so you let it hang, and hopefully it comes back up, which it usually does. But that's where experience comes in, and that worry. For the older generation, I'm a Gen Xer. That's older generation. It does. It makes you have to tighten your belt loops up, and that's something we've also learned too. Go ahead, Ian. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and to be fair, I mean, including myself in here, more and more people are having to move back home. Like I was back at my parents' house up until relatively recently, and why? Because I was paying $14.50 for an apartment on Long Island. And then I was like, all right, things will start to go down during 2020 at some point. And it just went up and up. And I'm paying way more than that for this here in Connecticut right now, because if I lived on Long Island, I'd be paying for this like well over $3,000. Like things have doubled, like literally doubled in price. So, I mean, a lot of that has to do with the economy. The only question I was going to ask, and to maybe push back on you on something, like, do you honestly know anybody who is praising the current administration? Because I don't. I talk to plenty of liberals. I have plenty of friends who are liberals, and my friends who are left wing mainly all wanted Bernie Sanders to be president. Some wanted Elizabeth Warren, and the people I know who voted for Biden were like, "This guy sucks," but I'm not voting for Trump. I know I don't think I know anyone who is like a big Biden supporter. I really don't. I know people who are like, "Well, I'll vote for him because it's not Trump," but I haven't really met anyone except like probably some bots on Twitter who are like praising the administration. I don't see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually random strangers on social media, or like, you know, the young kids on TikTok. I have known a few in my personal life that voted for Biden and that originally at least liked the administration, but I'm not friends with any of them anymore because they all deleted me. So, you know, whatever. I would like to check in on them and see how they think everything's going though. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe there aren't people that are fully like 100% praising the administration, but maybe there's like certain decisions that like the administration's making that they're like, okay, let's just ignore all this garbage that's happening and focus on the one good thing that we think is good. I think that's kind of what's happening. So like with the Roe v. Wade, and I don't want to try and get like too political or like give my own like exact like opinion, but like with the Roe v. Wade and how this administration kind of pushed back on the Supreme Court's decision, there's a lot of people that were really happy about that, like, yeah, like fight for our non-existent rights and whatever. But it's just like I feel like they're so focused on certain things that they're not, focusing on like all the damage that's being done over here on the left side. So it's like, maybe they're not fully 100% praising the administration, but I also feel like they're in a way ignoring a lot of things too, and maybe purposely, or they're just simply not paying attention.
Well, and that's, and that's also where, and me and Ian, me and Ian especially, and I would say we're both in agreement on this, is that I think if any people on both sides of the aisle, if they're going to ignore the bad and look for the good on every, and try not to say that my person that I voted for. It almost comes like a sports game. It's like I'm
Oh yeah.
You can't let go, even though I know the Cowboys really suck. I really want them to win all the time. And I'm going to say they're going to be good. I'm going to say they're going to, even though I know deep down in my heart, they're going to break my heart again. I'm going to be like, yes, they're going to win. That's what politics has kind of turned into. It's that I voted for him, so he's got to win, or she's got to win, or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But when they start doing bad, I'm going to still see that silver lining, because I know they're going. We can't do that with politics, and I've seen that go. Actually, the last two elections have gone, especially, or maybe it's just been out there more because the media and the social media, you see it more. And
I don't know in this case though, because like poll after poll says even Democrats do not want Biden to run.
And I'm all good with that.
So I think I'm just giving you my perspective. I know plenty of people right on all sides of the aisle. There's people who love DeSantis. There's people who love Trump. I really don't know people who are like adamant Biden supporters. And I think all of them are like, yeah, we need to run someone else, but they don't really know who.
And maybe it's because, and I'm in Kansas, so yeah, there's not very many Biden supporters in Kansas. I'm in the Midwest.
I'm in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah, you're in.
I'm in the swamp.
You definitely are. Oh, I don't know.
That's actually an interesting question though to ask you. Like, why do you choose to live like where you're one of what is it, like 5 to 10% of Republicans in the area?
I'm not choosing. It's the military.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is it now? Okay, well, actually, that's a good segue. We got, because I wanted to go into being a military wife now. Well, first of all, what in your with your experience, what in your right mind made you start dating and then marrying a military man? People could ask my wife that same question. They'd be like, "What are you thinking?" But tell us, how did that work out? Give us a little bit of the spiel behind the scenes, and like maybe if you want to talk about something embarrassing, embarrass the hell out of him on this show. Let's do it. Yeah. We got it. How did that work, and when did you first meet him? And was it like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm getting into, and I'm still going to move forward, or was it just it was so Twitter pated in love? That's a Bambi reference, guys, from Thumper and Bambi. That's how old I am. That you just like, you look through it and like, okay, military guy, I know what I'm getting myself into. I can change him. That's what you thought, didn't you?
I simply wasn't thinking. So the thing is the way we met is I didn't do it the old-fashioned way, and instead I slid into his DMs on Instagram. Oh,
you did? You stalked him, you stalker.
I did not stalk him. But no, like I thought he was cute, and I was like, I'm gonna follow him. So he accepted he was on private at the time.
Sure.
So he accepted my follow request, but he didn't follow me back right away. So I was like, oh,
he's playing hard to get.
It's gonna be hard. So then I messaged him and I was like, thank you for your service. He messaged me back and he was like, hey, thanks for your support. And then he finally followed me back. And then we were just kind of like talking and chatting. I don't know. It was very like, there wasn't really like a time in our conversation where it was like weird or awkward. Like it was kind of like almost we were like reconnecting or something. I don't know. Like the conversation flowed really easily, which was like a really good sign. He was in Afghanistan at the time.
Okay.
I don't know why I would try and pursue someone that's not in the country right now, but he was in Afghanistan at the time. And so we actually did like FaceTime and stuff, you know, as much as he could. Obviously really couldn't talk or FaceTime much.
Sure.
At all. But the times where like he could, we would FaceTime or whatever. I also think it was kind of like he was down for it because it's I'm sure it's kind of like lonely being there. Obviously you have your buddies, but like,
yeah, but that's different. I mean, if you're on, especially on a base, yeah, no, I feel it. I got you. I'm tracking. I'm tracking. Yeah.
So it was nice, I think, for him to have someone new to talk to that wasn't with him. So like we would FaceTime and we talked for 3 months, just like Snapchatting or Instagram or FaceTiming. And then when he finally came home, I did what no woman should ever do. So if there's any women listening to this or any men that have daughters, make sure they don't do this. I was living in Nashville at the time and I was living by myself. And I actually lied to my parents and I told them that I already knew him and like met him from like years ago and we were like reconnecting or whatever, because I didn't want them to be like, no, you're not flying somewhere you've never been or whatever. So he was stationed at Fort Bragg at the time. And I flew to North Carolina, to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was St. Patrick's Day weekend. I flew there to meet this boy that I've never met in person ever in my life. Never even been to North Carolina. I don't even know anyone in North Carolina. So it's like, if anything happened, I'm a goner. I'm done for. I'm going to be on the nightly news. And he also brought 2 guys with him.
Of course he did. That's
because
80s.
he wanted to make sure he was safe. I was like, what is that? I'm not like, this is weird. But it's like, so I flew there and he was with 2 other buddies that he served with at the time and whatever. And it was fine. Like everything's fine. I really didn't have like a weird feeling or anything about it. I actually felt very safe with him. Like as soon as I met him in person. And
you stayed at wait, did you meet him at a bar on St. Patrick's Day outside of Fort Bragg? That's probably, that's
no.
crazy. Okay. That's crazy.
No. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina. I would never go to Fayetteville by myself.
Okay. All right, just checking.
Terrible idea. So we were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he actually picked me up at the airport, and then we got an Airbnb for the weekend, and we just went out to the bars in Charlotte because it was St. Patrick's Day weekend, so there's so many people out in the area, and it was a really fun weekend, and I didn't at one point ever think that like my safety was in jeopardy, which was a really good sign because I feel like I have like a really good intuition. I also struggle with anxiety, so I also think everything is like out to get me. But I felt safe with him, and it was like, we were talking for 3 months. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but like, he still hasn't killed me, so that's a good thing. But it was a good weekend though. But I wouldn't necessarily suggest that situation to every woman because you just don't know who you're meeting, who that person is. Now, obviously he was in the military, so I feel like if he murdered me, it wouldn't really end well for him. But you never know. So
you don't want to think. Obviously, you took a chance, and especially with somebody from Fort Bragg, that's a big chance. It's huge. But it worked out for you. Since then, you got married. I think we do get some military spouses, and of course, my wife's one. What difficulties have you guys gone through, and what would give us more recommendations? You have a perspective that neither me and Ian could never, we couldn't have ever.
Yeah.
And has he deployed since then? And have you gone through a deployment, where you've been married and he's been deployed and you've had to deal with it? And has that your anxiety, does it change when you're just dating until you marry a military man or military woman, not you married a woman? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be politically correct without being politically correct.
No worries.
But yeah, what do you do, and how do you handle it? And if do you have any words of advice for those that go through it? Because I know it's hard. I know I put my wife through hell. Now that I can look back at it, I didn't really think about it at the time because I was just going overseas. That's what I wanted to do. It was more me. I'll be honest with you. It was more me than it was. Yeah. So how do you handle that? And just give us words of wisdom if you could.
Yeah. So, I mean, before we got married, we did long distance. So I feel like that right there built up and like our relationship, a lot of strength in our relationship. Because it kind of like helped us be like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like when we're not with each other 24/7. And I think the long distance was really hard, especially because he was airborne. So there would be times where and even when we got married, he would still be jumping out of planes and stuff. But like, that's like, for me, that's like scary. Who would jump out of a perfectly good airplane? But no, but he loved it. And like there would be times where like I remember this one specific time I stayed up till like 3 a.m. waiting for his phone call because, you know, obviously there's always something that could go wrong in like a jump. And he would always call me right after he landed, like literally right as soon as he hit the ground. And he'd like told me like the time that they were going to jump out of the plane or whatever. So I knew like a few minutes after that is when I would get a call. And like after that time passed, like 30 minutes later, I hadn't heard anything. And I was like, what's going on? And I was like, you know, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll wait like, you know, 30 more minutes. And then like an hour and a half goes by and I'm like, what is going on? And then he texted me, he goes, we didn't even jump yet. It was delayed. So we're going to jump in a few minutes, whatever. And then when he finally called me, it was like that like relief of like, okay, good. Everything went the way that it was supposed to, because even when they're not deployed, when they're doing stuff like that, it's still nerve-wracking. Obviously, you trust your spouse and you trust that they were trained properly and that they have the skills to carry out training the way that they're supposed to. But it's still scary sometimes, I think. Sure. But being long distance still, though, definitely helped me for sure. I mean, it helped him too, but like it definitely strengthened our marriage for like if there's ever moments where we're going to be away from each other for a long period of time. And luckily I haven't had to go through a long deployment with him again after I was talking to him when he was in Afghanistan. But there's been long trainings, and obviously I'll never compare that to women who have gone through long deployments, and especially deployments back when things were really popping in Afghanistan and Iraq. But even just like, because I still have girls that like will message me and be like, you know, my boyfriend's going to basic training, you know, do you have any advice? Like I'm you know, sad to be leaving him for so long. And I'm like, honestly, like this goes for deployments, trainings, basic training, you know, whatever it is. Even if it's a weekend, just like keep yourself busy, because the worst thing that you could possibly do is sit at home on your couch and have nothing planned for yourself, because then you're thinking all the things that are going wrong, or like, whoa, what is my husband doing right now? I haven't heard from him in like a couple hours. So it's like, you always have to keep yourself busy. You always have to either get a job or make plans with friends or go visit family, whatever it is, like always keep yourself busy. And I've failed at that too. There have been times where I've been so lazy and I've just been sitting there, and then all of a sudden my mind's like going and I'm like, oh God, I need to get up and do something quick. But yeah, I think part of me wouldn't necessarily choose this life because, and especially now too, like the military just does not take care of their service members the way that they should be. And there's never a set in stone schedule. Things are always changing 24/7. And your life is never like 100, you're never 100% sitting comfortably. Something's always going to change at the last minute. And it's like, I've really had to work with that, and the fact that like, you know, we could be moving, you know, every 2 years or, or, you know, whatever it is, where it's like, oh, we have plans for this, but now it just got ruined because of, you know, something with the military. So it's like, there's so, like, for example, like last year he had to work on Christmas. I was like, that sucks. Like, obviously I wouldn't willingly choose to have that life where, you know, I can't spend holidays with my husband, but at the same time, he loves what he does. Or honestly, he used to really loved what he was doing in the military. And I think now he's just noticed that the military is not what it used to be, and they're not taken care of the way that they should be. So I think now, especially, I wouldn't necessarily consider marrying or dating someone in the military. At the same time, you can't really choose who you love and who you fall in love with. So like, I'm 100% would choose this over and over again if it means I get to marry him over and over again. Yeah. But it's definitely a rough life and community to be a part of. I mean, it's a great community to be a part of because it's a huge family, but it can definitely be a rough life sometimes.
Yeah, and life just kind of happens. And also you could tell the fact that you legitimately were into this guy, and it wasn't just that he was a military guy, because I'm just thinking of in my head, well, Chris, how many girls do we know who have been at like SHOT Show and dated like this guy who's a Navy SEAL, guy who's an Army Ranger? There's so many. We've had like one guy on the podcast, right? He's an Army Ranger who dated one girl, like I'm not gonna say names, but it's like I know that this girl jumped around from like operator to operator, and I didn't know about this whole life until I somehow got involved. And it's like it is the whole life happening.
Well, dude, you're with soft rip. You're with the ultimate jumping around, the dude that you know what I'm talking about, jumping around. Yeah, you ultimately
maybe,
yeah.
but the thing is, it goes into what you're saying though. I never thought I was going to be working with all these special operators. It just kind of happened. I was working in radio, and Chris never thought he would be a public speaker, going like state to state doing public speeches. It's not what you desired to do. It just all kind of happened. But you know what I was going to ask about you regarding like what you do and what your husband does. Anybody who follows you, Alex, knows like you are extremely outspoken about any issue going on. You're not going to hold back. You're going to say what you think about the administration. You don't care about who you're going to criticize or who you're going to offend. Do you ever worry that it's going to affect him being in the military? Because I'm just thinking of, for example, a quick example. I remember when I worked at Sirius XM, which has like conservative commentators and liberal commentators, and it's all different things. This girl I worked with wrote on Twitter, she was like, fuck Steve Bannon, fuck what he's doing. And as a friend, I was just like, hey, Steve Bannon has a show on Twitter. I mean, on Sirius, you might not want to write that because the company could literally fire you for that type of thing. So I just wonder for you, if you're like, why is the Biden doing this to our military? Could it ever affect your husband where they're like, hey, your wife needs to stop putting up these videos?
Yeah, I have been worried about that in the past, and I've asked him, especially when it comes to like, there's sometimes, see, here's the thing. It's like, I didn't sign on the dotted line. I didn't join the military. Like, the government doesn't own me in that way. So it's like, I have freedom of speech, and there are certain topics where like I'll talk about and I won't run it past him because I'm like, I can talk about it. It's fine. But I'm also very outspoken when it comes to the military and things going on in the military, like the fact that they don't treat their service members well, the fact that they, especially when COVID was a really huge thing and they made it seem like COVID was a bigger issue than suicides, when that's just not the case at all. And I was really outspoken about that, especially because my husband has dealt with mental, I mean, I feel like everyone that's in the military has gone through some sort of like, mental battles, even if it's short. My husband has even been, he works at Arlington right now. And, the job that he does isn't the very best, like upbeat, happy, fun job. So it's like, I feel like suicides just run so rampant in the military and they're not taken seriously. So obviously it's a huge topic of mine that I love to bring awareness to because it can affect me personally. So it's like, there are certain topics where I'll come up with a really good video about something and it's discussing the military or it's discussing something in that sense. And there have been a few times where I've been like, can I post this? Like, is this okay? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you're not in the military. And I was like, okay, I'm just making sure. I don't want you to get kicked out for my big mouth. But, the good thing is a lot of the guys that he works with, a lot of his sergeants and stuff, they know my job and they know what I do on social media. And they know I'm very outspoken about politics and such. And a lot of them do agree with me, which is a really good thing. So, they know, but I've never been approached or my husband has never approached me and been like, hey, I think you need to stop talking about this specific topic or whatever. But I still think about it every once in a while, especially last August when the fall of Kabul was happening. I was really, really I could not shut up. I was like, I feel like I'm going to get myself in trouble at one of these days because I was really angry and I was really outspoken about it. And I was like, can I talk about this? Because I feel like I need to talk about it. I was like, I mean, if you want, I can block you on Instagram. We can pretend like we're not married on social media if that's what it takes. But, because the good thing is that I don't go by his last name. I still have my original maiden name on social media. So it's not like they don't really fully make the connection unless they see photos of us. Sure. But yeah, I've definitely have thought about, the fact that my big mouth could get him in trouble one day. But I also at the same time feel like it's worth it. So
his CEO would tell, as long as he doesn't come and say, my CEO said, and it starts with that, my CEO, you're good. It doesn't make a difference. You can keep doing what you want. And yeah. I'm with you, Cabo. I get it. I lived I served and I lived amongst the locals, and that's what I loved with the agency is I got to live off the local economy in Kabul and surrounding Afghanistan for many years. So I get that. I mean, that was a complete failure. It was total tactical leadership failure, and we failed the people immensely. And then on top of it, they had caveat on top of it, we drone striked a bunch of civilians and didn't take any responsibility for it. So I feel you. And I think honestly, people like yourself and help by speaking out with things like that, because the military can't. You saw the Marine major that spoke out, and he was completely in the right. I think she could have stopped at some point and let somebody else take over for it. But you saw what happened to him. Didn't he get dishonorably discharged or so? I forget the story, but he got discharged because it is when you sign on the dotted line, and as much as military personnel don't like to think this, yes, we do. We lose a lot of our rights. That's what we signed up for. I wasn't a big fan.
So ironic. It's so ironic.
But that's what we want to do. I mean, that's why I went to Ranger Battalion. I knew if that's what I need to do to be a Ranger, just tell me what I need to do. Do I need to get 8 anthrax shots? Okay, well then I'll get 8 anthrax shots. That's fine, because that's how old I am again, guys. The anthrax scare was my time. But yeah, with this, so what are you saying, and what I'm going to and trying to lead to is I talked to a lot of military personnel personally, a lot of kids that want to go in personally, and the morale, of course, and obviously the morale's terrible right now. Do you see that coming home? Do you see that from him? You're telling right, you've even kind of went that way a bit with how hard, and they don't take care of their soldiers anymore. And I honestly believe that. I don't have a specific story, but I do. But when he comes home or anything, have you seen the morale, or even buddies in his unit, dropping? And what aspect has the morale dropped, or how has it dropped? And can you talk about that? Because it does apply. It doesn't just apply to the soldier, it applies to the family too. And it affects the family. Morale affects the whole family system. Do you have you gotten any, I mean, and have you had to go through any of that? And how do you get through it if it has coming home, if he is bringing morale issues home? And what do you do?
Yeah. So he has served with a few buddies recently and in the past who have taken their life, or who have tried, or have really dealt with a lot of like self-harm issues where he's had to like be there, and it's so, we have that connection. And then obviously I've even struggled with my own depression as well in the past, and even now being pregnant, and I'll get back on that topic too, but like even now being pregnant, like, you go through like, you can go through depression. Yeah. And even recently, just like the past couple of days, I've been really depressed. And then he texted me, yesterday, and he was like, I think your depression came over to me. Because it's like, I know, I'm like, no, why would you say that?
Yeah, let me tell your buddy, your husband right now, don't ever say that shit. No. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, no, don't. Because I don't say that. If you're a military member, a husband, if your wife is going through something, don't ever say that. That is okay. Keep going though. I just want to put that out there.
But it's okay though, because I wasn't really upset, when he said that. I was actually more worried than anything else, because, what he's been doing the past, since 2020, his job really takes a lot out of him mentally. And he hasn't really been the same as he was when he was like at Fort Bragg. And obviously it was a completely different environment too, but the morale is definitely down, and it definitely comes home. And we've had so many discussions. I think the really important thing is to talk with your spouse, to like inquire and be like, how are you feeling? Like, are you angry? Why are you angry? Are you sad? Why are you sad? Like, really be there for them, because a lot of the times they might not even necessarily know why they feel the way that they feel. And I know exactly how that goes. And it's really hard to navigate when your emotions are all over the place, or you're really feeling down and you're like, I really don't want to do this job anymore, but you have to, because you don't have a choice. It's not just a regular job that you could just put in your 2 weeks and then go somewhere else. So it's like, this is something that you kind of have to like really like pick yourself up off the, from the bootstraps, and just be like, okay, I have to keep going. I see a lot of these guys probably don't have, maybe a wife at home, so they don't have someone that they can come to, after, work and kind of work through these struggles. A lot of these guys still, are unmarried, so they live in the barracks and they go back to their barracks and they sit in their room by themselves, and then they're stuck with their thoughts. So it's like, it's hard to navigate, because we've had conversations where I've been like, I can see that your job is really affecting you. Like he used to come home being like, and he has recently been fine, but like there have been moments where he's come home and you could just tell the energy is completely drained from him. He's not happy to even be home. And he's just like, they can get more frustrated or angry easily, or they just like shut down, where he's the type of person to just shut down. He's not really the type of person to like react, which is a really good thing. But at the same time, shutting down isn't good either. And that's usually what he does, because he doesn't know how to handle his emotions when he's angry or when he's sad. So he just shuts down. Almost feels like maybe it's like an embarrassing type of feeling, which I always tell him it's not. But it's hard, because you see the climate, you see what's going on. A lot of these guys, men and women, want to join, want to continue to serve their country, but then they're not taken care of. And they're like, why did I sign up to to protect my country and serve my country when my country doesn't care about me? Yeah. So it's really, really hard. And I never thought that he would be the type of person to go through any like mental struggles. You honestly don't feel like your spouse would go through that until they go through it. You know what I mean? Because obviously, like the potential is always there, especially with having, a job in the military. The potential is always there to go through mental struggles, but you just don't think that it's going to happen to you or to your spouse until it actually happens. So it's hard. I mean, luckily, I feel like with me and my mental health struggles in the past, I'm able to help him a lot more and like navigate through it a lot better than others. But I think that there's a really big issue in the military, and it's not even foreign enemies right now. It's within the military, and it's the morale, and it's the way that they treat these guys, and how they don't take care of their families, and they don't take care of their service members. And I personally, I can't speak on it too much, because I'm not in it. I'm not in the military experiencing it, but I've seen it from friends that have been in the military and my husband who's in. So
yeah, I mean, I think that this is like a huge issue, and that's why Chris and I have always talked about whether it's therapy, whether it's CBD, even on the more like crazy end, people would say the psychedelics people are doing, to help them out. If that's going to help them out, I'm all for it, really. I think no one is like immune from these different trials and tribulations. And then on top of not being cared for, Chris and I have discussed, like you've said it yourself, Chris, like the immorality you've seen in the military, the guys we've seen who have like committed war crimes. I do think it weighs on them, and I do think those are some of the guys that we see killing themselves. So there's a lot of like crazy stuff. But I know you wanted to talk about, like you said, mental health in general, your own mental health struggles, and it's something Chris and I could relate to as well. I think it definitely makes you stronger when you go through that stuff. But in terms of like what you're going through right now, needless to say, Chris and I have no idea the experience of, because regardless of what's said, men cannot get pregnant.
Yeah, men can't get pregnant. It's not possible. It's not physically possible.
You and I, Chris, have no idea like of that struggle. But I think, there's different things we go through as men or as women, and in your case, like as a pregnant woman right now, that you feel you're alone and that no one could relate to.
It's been hard. I struggled with depression. I didn't really struggle with it a lot recently until I got pregnant, but I really struggled with depression back when I was in college, and then anxiety. Then I built up the anxiety. I had a friend that I was friends with in college, from like 2014 to 2016. I went to a college conservatory in New York City. That was also very fun to be in New York right before the 2016 election as like a conservative. I felt like I was in like the lion's den, but it was fun. And then I had a really good friend that I started that college with at the time, and his name was Andrew, and he ended up committing suicide. And that was like the first time I knew someone else that that took their life when I was younger, when I was in high school, and I went to school with this person at a different school back when I was in like fourth grade through sixth grade or whatever. But I wasn't super close with them. So obviously, like, in a way I felt it, but like it didn't like affect me. And then when I lost my friend to suicide when I was in college, I think I took like a spiral, because I was 19 or 20 at the time. And when you're 19 and 20 years old, like, you don't think that things like that are going to happen. You just don't think that you're going to go through something like that. And I almost feel like when you're that young, even 19 and 20, obviously we know that no one is safe from death.
Yeah,
I mean, not to get morbid over here, but like, no, like, everyone's gonna die at some point.
You start to realize mortality. You start to,
Yes.
You do. We're not immortal. There is mortality there, but it's still not really there, because we're still willing to go drink ourselves into oblivion at 19 and be okay. But we know there's mortality. Gotcha.
But I just like, but in a way, like, at least like this is how like I was almost describing it to my parents when I went through it at the time. That like, you almost, in a way, like, you know, everyone can die at some point in their life, even young, old, doesn't matter. But like, when you're 19 and 20 and you're living your life and you're in college and you're doing things that are fun and your life is going great, you just almost feel immortal. You do almost feel immortal. You're just like, there's no way that my friends are going to die. Like, we're young, like, we've got so much life ahead of us. And then I remember that night like it was yesterday, and it was in 2015. And I literally remember every single moment of that night when we found out that he passed away. He did it in the dorms, and his room was 2 floors above mine. And I remember I was walking from school, and the weird thing is with New York, New York is the college campus. There's no like actual college campus. So there was like the school, and then 10 blocks away from the school were the dorms, or at least one of the dorms. And it was kind of weird. Those dorms, like at the very top, like the last like 2 floors at the top, had like older tenants, like older people living in them. But they were kind of crazy. Like, I would be walking through the halls, and one of them would just be like screaming at the wall. So I'd be like, I don't feel like I'm safe in this dorm right now. So I was walking back from class, and I saw an ambulance out in the front of the building, and they were bringing someone out in like a body bag. And I thought it was an old tenant, because they're like really old. So I was like, okay, well, one of them, you know, just died of old age or something. And then I was like in my room. I didn't have a roommate that year. It was a really small room, like a shoebox. It's crazy. I was sitting in my room. I was on my computer. I was on Facebook. Our class had our certain class, kind of hard to explain, but like our certain class had like a group chat on Facebook. And all of a sudden people are like, is everyone okay? How's everyone feeling? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm tired. Is that what you mean? And then someone said, did anyone in here know him? And I was like, oh God. I was like, who died? But it was like, I didn't think that I would know them, because it's like, you just don't think that, you know, people in your life are going to die, at least so young, you know what I mean? So it's like, I was like, oh God. So then someone was like, okay, check your school email. So I checked the email, and then I saw that the school had sent out an email that Andrew had taken his life. And it was almost like I don't know what the word is. I have it at the tip of my tongue, but it's like, I am maybe like dissociated myself for a second. And I was like, Andrew, I almost like didn't think that I knew him. Like, I had to go look him up on Facebook, because I had to see like the face with the name, because I was like, there's no way, like, there's just no way that my friend, that this is my friend, like, this is somebody different. And then immediately when I like connected the dots, like, I mean, the whole building just felt horrible. Like, we're all 18, 19 years old. We're living our lives in college. We're in New York City. Like, that's such a dream for so many people to be living in New York. And then to just be hit with like devastating news like that. And then seeing like, oh my gosh, that's who they were taking out of the building earlier. And then that was like even worse. And I remember I ran down to my friend's room, and I was banging on her door, and she was on the phone with her boyfriend at the time, and I was banging on her door, and I was yelling. I was like, let me in, let me in. And I told her, and we're just like sitting there like having like a panic attack. I don't think I'd ever had a actual panic attack until that moment. I had no idea like what they were, how they felt, or anything. And I mean, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, as I'm talking about it, I literally am envisioning it in my head. I still remember every single detail. I called my mom. It's 1 a.m. or midnight, 1 a.m. My mom's sleeping. She calls, she answers. I'm crying into the phone. I'm 3 hours away from her, which is probably terrible for her to hear her daughter crying on the phone and she can't get to me. And it was just really, really terrible. And then for the longest time after that, that's kind of when I developed anxiety, to the point where like now it's like, okay, well, not everyone, like we're not immortal. We can die at any moment. And even though it was self-inflicted, it was still scary. The fact that this kid so young, that's my age, is no longer here. And like, I would develop this very weird anxiety type thing. And I'll try and explain it and see if it makes sense. But I would like not go to sleep until after midnight. And then I would tell myself, okay, now I can go to sleep because I survived the next day. Like, it was a very weird type of mindset that I put myself in, where I would not fall asleep until I made it to the next day. Because I was like, I don't want to die, while I'm like in my sleep or whatever. It was a very, very weird mindset that I put myself in. A lot of anxiety that I dealt with for the longest time. And I'm still dealing with anxiety, but it's not necessarily associated with that situation anymore. But yeah, I don't think I would wish that type of scenario on my worst enemy. Like, losing a friend in that way is probably one of the worst feelings that you could ever feel, because they are almost like, well, could I have done something more? I think I struggled with guilt for the longest time. And this is probably some advice that I could give to people that are listening that maybe have gone through this, or who know someone that have gone through this. You are not guilty for that situation. Most people that do that, they've already made up their minds. Nothing's going to change their mind. And I struggled with that for the longest time, because not even 24 hours before he took his life, he was talking to me and making me feel better about something that I was going through. So for the longest time, I was like, he was taking care of me and making sure that I was okay while he was hurting. And it's like, and I didn't notice that. But most of the times you're not going to notice it, because most of the times it's people that can mask it really well. A lot of times you might be able to pick up signs. But, I also think this is a good lesson for me, especially developing future friendships. I'm always checking in on my friends, always, because you just never know what someone's going through. Even if they're your best friend, you never know what they're dealing with on the inside. And I'm always checking in on my friends. I'm even checking in on strangers on Instagram that like I never met before. And like, maybe they posted something a little sketchy, and I'm like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, how's life lately? Like, I'm always checking in on people, because I feel like I struggled with that guilt for the longest time of not being able to recognize when my friend was hurting. So now I'm like, now I really want to make the initiative to always be checking in on someone. So I've struggled with that quite a lot. And I think that's why I'm so outspoken when it comes to mental health, because it's a really personal topic for me. And I see like the hurt that it causes so many people, including the people who are going through it. So it's hard, but I think it's made me stronger. It's made me a stronger person. And it's made my relationships with my family and friends so much stronger too, because I'm just able to appreciate life a lot better. I'm able to appreciate the people in my life a lot better. And I think that's the biggest thing, because no one is guaranteed the next day. And it's like, you really want to you don't want to take anyone for granted or anything for granted. So.
Well, you don't want to take life for granted. You want to enjoy it every much as you can. And it's cliche, but it's right. It's funny. The most cliche, simple things that we've heard for years still apply more so even today than they did back then. So I agree with you on that. And I wanted to ask, did your faith suffer at all when that happened? Did you have doubts? I mean, you don't talk a ton about Christianity. I mean, you do some on, but I know you believe in God. But when that happened, especially that's an age where you could turn very quick one way or the other. You know, me at my age, I know death happened. I've seen it up close and personal. I've taken, we don't need to go down that route, but I still know God's out there. You're not going to change my mind ever. But at 19, 20, 21, when you see something like that, did you have some doubts of faith, or did it not even become an issue? Was it just, God's there, he's on his plane, this is happening here, let me deal with it here? What went through your head, and what would you give as far as advice on that as well, now that you're, because you have some emotional scars from it, which you should, everybody would in that situation, but coming out of it, but you've come out of it strong, but those scars are still there. But I think faith helps you get through that, my personal opinion. But what's your opinion, and what did it feel like when that happened, if you can talk about it?
Yeah. So I grew up Catholic, and I around that time, I actually feel like I didn't really have a strong relationship with God. And then when that happened, I definitely didn't. And I, even at the time, I just didn't even acknowledge that he was there, because I had developed such strong death anxiety, where I was like, I was afraid to die. Or I was afraid that my family was going to die, or my other friends weren't safe. Like, it was a very mentally draining, time period in my life where I was always on edge, and I never found that comfort that I probably could have found in God if I sought him out more, especially during that time, because I feel like most people do struggle with situations like that. Well, they'll go through something, or they'll lose a loved one, and they'll blame God for it. And I don't necessarily blame people for doing that, because I'm sure I've done it that in the past, because it's unfortunately, we live in a fallen world, so it's a natural thing for us to immediately blame God when something goes wrong. But that God didn't cause that. And God can bring us the comfort that we're seeking in such a time as that. And now, if I were to go through that again now, which please, I don't want to, I would be able to lean on him more. I would be able to, I feel like I would be able to get through something like that much more, like I would be a lot stronger through that situation than compared to how I was back when that situation happened in 2015. Like, there was even last year, I went through a early miscarriage, and
you posted about that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's tough. Wow.
And I immediately could have blamed God for that.
Oh yeah.
Because I was angry.
Oh, yeah.
I was sad. I was like, we were so excited to experience this and become parents, and like, why did this happen? But instead, John and I leaned on him, and we were like, we were praying to him, and we were just really seeking him, because we needed comfort, because it was a really hard time for us. And he got us through it. And now look, we're pregnant again with a baby, and this has been a healthy baby, and I've been healthy. And I also really like to point out that I had the early miscarriage in January of 2021, and then this baby is going to be born in January 2023. So I feel like that's a very full circle rejoicing moment that God has given us. But yeah, I didn't really have a strong relationship with God at that time, and I think that's what made the damage hurt so much more. I feel like if I had a stronger relationship with God at that time, I would have pulled through maybe a bit faster, or I just maybe wouldn't have dealt with the many mental struggles that I dealt with, like the anxiety. Because oddly enough, as a Christian and being really into my faith now, I still struggle with death anxiety. It's very weird. I hate it. I'm always thinking like I have a terrible headache. Oh, it's a brain bleed. Like, or like my
it's
stomach
the monkeypox.
Or my stomach hurts. It's my appendix. Like, I'm always being like, I'm like, John, can you become a medic so I don't have to Google 24/7? Like sometimes I'll even like have him, like we're sleeping in bed and I'll be like, I feel like my heart skipped a beat, and I'll be like, hey John, can you check my pulse real fast? Like, can you check my heartbeat? But so as a Christian, like those struggles aren't necessarily going to just go away. You're still going to struggle, but you can pull through it with God as long as you're leaning on him. And then I definitely feel like the situation and the way that I handled it or healed from it probably would have been much better if I had God more prominently in my life at that time. But everything happens for a reason. And I know that I'm right where I'm supposed to be now in my walk with Christ. But yeah, I definitely think that it probably would have changed a bit.
Yeah, I think you opening up about this is going to help a lot of people out. I mean, this is definitely something I'm going to put up, I think just like this segment right here on YouTube. Yeah, because no, I think a lot of people aren't going to open up about what you opened up about. And I think there's plenty of women who went through the same thing you went through and feel like they're alone. And I always feel like that is just one of the main things with anxiety, with depression. You always feel like you're in this alone. There's no one else who's gone through what you've gone through. And of course, other people have. On a more positive note, and I don't know, Chris, is anything else I wanted to ask one last thing, but the way that you're following and the people who watch your rants and everything has just shot up on Instagram is really incredible, and just social media in general. I wanted to hear what that was like, because I came from like the world of radio and have been doing this, feels like forever, since 2006, and podcasting since 2013, if I remember correctly. And in the early years of radio, it was like this whole process of you have to send demos to all these different states. You have to have a program director who likes what you do and gives you a shot. And I think with what you've done with your rants, people just organically like them. And all of a sudden it grew. And then I know you got the attention of people like Rush Limbaugh, and they played your stuff on his show. And yeah, what was like that rise to I guess internet fame, you would say? What was it like? Because as I've said, you have a giant following on there, and it's all, real people who love what you do and still support what you do. And it probably happened at the right time, because I think it happened before all these changes in algorithm where we're dealing with the shadow banning stuff. I know you've dealt with it, and you were able to basically, get your name out there before all that was so prominent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That shadow ban is rough. I'm dealing with it now. I haven't posted rants since May. So I just started yesterday and today. I posted rant yesterday and today. And luckily they've been doing somewhat okay, but I know they could do better. But Instagram is really like shutting everyone down right now. And it's rough. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, because when I started doing the rants, I wasn't even necessarily just doing them to like gain followers or anything. It was more of like a release for me and like an outlet to just be like, I'm really angry right now. I need to get my opinions like out of my head. And I would do these rants and I would post them, and then they would do really well. And I'd be like, well, I guess a lot of people can resonate with me and like how I'm feeling about certain topics. And I was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it. And obviously I don't do them for like followers and stuff. But it's really cool to see people follow me because they like what I have to say, which really comes in handy in times when I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, or I'm, my opinion doesn't matter, when it absolutely does matter, because all of these people, can resonate with me and they like my opinion and they agree and they're sharing to everyone and their families and stuff. And it's really cool to see. I don't think I'm anywhere near internet famous, but it's still cool to see. I mean, I've had 5 TikTok accounts already. They've all been taken down, and I've had quite a huge following that I've built up from those accounts. And obviously it's all gone now, but it was really cool to be able to connect with so many people that share similar views that I do. I think that's the really cool thing about social media, is that you're connecting with so many people that you wouldn't normally be connecting with. You're not just going to like go to Walmart and start ranting about something and then 5,000 people are crowded around you like,
It depends which Walmart. Yeah, it does though. It depends which Walmart you go to, what part of the country. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But it's crazy. Like the concept of like social media and like building a platform it's a really cool feeling to have, because I almost feel like I don't even look at these people as followers, but more like friends and family in a way, because they support me so much through everything that I'm going through. You know, because I am really open about any mental struggles that I go through, because I know that it'll help others if they see someone that has, you know, even just a small following talking about it, because you can feel really alone when you're going through stuff like that. So I'm really open about things that I go through, because I know Instagram can be treated as a highlight reel where you're posting your best moments. You know, when your skin looks good, or when you just got married and you get your makeup and hair done and stuff, when like majority of the time you look like a couch potato that's homeless. So it's like everyone posts their like best pictures and videos. So it's nice to still be genuine and open about struggles. So it's cool when I post exciting things in my life and people are cheering me on and they're supporting me and they're happy for me, like with my pregnancy announcement. That was really cool. And then when I'm struggling and I'm kind of going through a rough time in my life, and people are like, I'm praying for you, I'm here if you need me. And it's just really nice to see so many people who are strangers who I've never met before in my life coming together and just rallying behind me. So it's a really cool concept. And I think I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but that's the one thing that I love about it, is that you can, that connection with just strangers that you'll probably never see ever in your life, unless you become really famous and have meet and greets, which I don't think I would do that. I don't know. I'm not even at that.
Or you get on a plane and fly to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then end up marrying a stranger. That
Yeah.
You could go that route. That worked out well, though. I mean,
it did work out well. But like I said, be careful, because it might not work out for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to be able to experience something like that, because when I started my rants, I never thought that I would have this platform. And obviously people love my rants, and that's why I'm kind of back from my break to keep doing them, because I know people love them, and I love doing them because it's a release for me when I'm angry. And it's another way to connect with people. So I think that's really important, and I just love it. I'm not taking any of it for granted. I feel so blessed that God gave me a platform and a voice to use and to connect with people. And there's so much that I want to do in the future. Obviously my mind is only thinking about baby right now, but
Sure.
There's just so much that I want to do, and to have this platform is just really nice.
No, it's turning positive negatives into positives, and you still have to. And I guess I only had one last thing, and this is from my experience with social media in itself. You know, I before you and I had ever connected, I had a prior account in Instagram that Ian still kicks me in the head. He's like, dude, why did you delete that thing? Because it had quite a few 100,000 followers, but it was very angry. And it really was hurting me. Mm-hmm. So I deleted it. And now, of course, I'm rebuilding it back up. But most of the stuff I post now is positive. I don't get in the weeds like I used to. Do you see, and I have seen though, personally with myself, if I post something very angry, I get more responses, where if I post something very positive, I get less responses or less interaction. Do you see the same thing? And then me, I've juggled it. I don't do the angry stuff anymore. I have my anger at times, of course, but I'm also in a lot better place not doing that. But my social media definitely does suffer, which is fine. That's no big deal. I know that. Luckily I have other entrepreneur things going on that I don't have to worry about that. But do you see that, and how do you juggle it so it's not always I'm getting those interactions? I'm going to call him out here. I don't care if he likes me or not. I'm not Graham Allen. Hate, you know, getting hundreds of millions of followers. There's still got to be positives there. I don't give two shits, to be honest with you. But how do you do that? And what would your be recommendation for somebody coming up that, you know, social media is a big part of your generation. It's huge, and it's how people make a living now. So it's not just hateful, because that hateful will drive you down the road to, again, negatives. Where the negative for me was putting a Glock 19 into my mouth and saying, okay, I can't do this anymore. But I did that to myself with the hate and of all that. What do you do? There's got to be a fine line. You're not going to listen to the old guy. They're going to listen to you. They're not. What do you say? What do you tell them? To keep it, you can have your negativity out there, but you still do positive stuff as well. And we got to juggle it and your responses might or might not suffer. Or have you cracked that code? Maybe you've cracked it and you've got that code where if you can post something positive, you're going to get a bunch of interactions compared to negative. I don't. My negatives far outweigh my interactions on my positives.
Not,
Sorry,
I'm going to jump in though. Not always, because you had that video about what's going on with the gun violence. I thought the way you said it was very positive. That was like your biggest post in years. But
maybe okay, maybe then maybe I cracked the code and I haven't realized I've cracked it. But this is my show. This is our show. You're the guest. So let's talk about maybe you can give me some ideas, because you're way more talented on social media than I am. So I'd like to know your take on that as well, and or maybe I'm way off course. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people definitely gravitate more towards the fiery, angry stuff, I think, because it gets other people going. So it's like when you see like happy posts, like, yeah, it's great and all, but then when you see those really like angry posts, it pisses other people off. So of course you're going to get like more engagement, because everyone likes to be pissed off together. So especially in today's climate. So, I mean, I think for me is I do my videos in a way where I'm adding some moments where like I might, come across pissed, but then I also add in like funny moments, like those like funny insults where I call Biden a houseplant or something. So it's like people kind of get that comedic relief where they're like, oh, this really pisses me off. Oh, but that was funny. So it's like you kind of have to, if you're angry all the time, I get it with Graham Allen, his posts kind of stress me out. And I don't need that stress in my life. The president,
I don't think he likes doing our podcast either. I don't, right, Chris? I don't think he enjoyed it.
He's fine. It's because we didn't allow him to be angry. I mean, that's just we stopped it. I stopped it. We both stopped it before it could get rolling. So yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, but yeah, I mean, no, he's a great guy, but like his posts have always, I also just think like when he started social media, I think he started on Facebook. So like those pissed off, angry rants on Facebook, like, back in 2016 was like a huge thing. But now I think people are kind of almost tired of that, because they turn on the news and they immediately get pissed off. So they don't need to see someone else yelling into a camera. For me, you can tell like in my rants that like what I'm talking about, I'm passionate, and sometimes I can get angry, but it's not in this like my face is getting red, I'm going to blow up angry. It's more of just like, I'm really passionate about this. I care about my country and I don't want to see it go to shit. So it's like, and people can resonate with that. So it's like, I don't want to be yelling, screaming into the camera, which is why like I do my rants in a way where like I give it just enough oomph, to really be like, yeah, I'm pissed off, but I'm not gonna blow a blood vessel, talking about certain things, you know what I mean? So I definitely think Instagram is weird. Social media is weird. You never really know what people are gonna want to hear. So I feel like it's kind of like a gamble in a way, or like you really have to take advantage of like as soon as something is happening, you have to talk about it. You know what I mean? And you don't have to necessarily be angry talking about it, but if you're just talking about it right away as soon as it's happening, I feel like that's gonna pull people in too. So for me, this was never something that I wanted to do just to gain followers. I truly, genuinely liked ranting. And like ranting isn't necessarily screaming, it's just like ranting. You're ranting off your opinions. So I always love, and God gave me the ability to talk fast. It's like I had to.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline podcast. But we'll be back on Monday with more American straight talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.